Welcome, one and all, to the Ultimate Hockey Show, a Monday ritual here on Game Time TV's YouTube channel. Michael Dill alongside Red Petty. Good evening, Red. How are you?
Very good. Very good. I just want you to
Now,
see this.
you were talking, and I was talking to some people.
Wait, time out. Time out.
Oh,
hang on.
okay.
I bought this shirt 15 years ago. I didn't like Chicago, but I liked Taves because he's a Winnipeg kid, and I bought it before they won their first Stanley Cup. I think that was in 2010. So this shirt's old. It's like 13, 14 years old. And then I was going to get rid of it. Like, Chicago's terrible, terrible. I used it as sort of a whatever, just a shirt underneath something if I was snowmobiling or whatever. And now it's my Connor Bedard shirt.
Fair enough. Nice start to the show here. Fashion.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm wearing my Connor Bedard shirt.
Okay. How was your week, Red?
Good. Good. Very good. Really good, because I predicted the Jets record more often than you do. 100% right. So I feel pretty good about that. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, you know what? I'm good. Things are back on the tracks with getting Game Time TV all set up for the season. In fact,
good.
We played with the new feature today. We're going to show you the MWJHL goals of the week at the end of the show, just to do a little promotion for some MWJHL broadcasts coming up. You'll have 3 goals, both of which from games this weekend, actually all 3 of which from games this weekend, and we'll attempt to slide them into the show at the end, just so everybody can have a little bit of a taste into what we do when it's not Monday night, and I decide not to host the show. But we'll leave that for the end. Rhett, I rarely do this. You would enclosed, or you always tell me, make sure you send your outline Monday morning, everything else. So I send the outline. Quick story, I sent it to 2 email addresses that you own, because there was so much information entitled in that outline that it seems like when I sit down on Monday morning or Sunday night on my way home from my games and start to kind of say, you know, what do me and Rhett need to talk about this week? There's some weeks, and this is one of them, where the show script ultimately rates itself, evidenced by the outline that we're going to touch on tonight. Now, the first order of business, the 1-1 Winnipeg Jets this week. And it kind of ties into a lot of subjects. I know I left a lot of, to steal a Ken Weeb scenario, I gave you a buffet of topics to talk about. Let's sort of start with this, and I'll preference it with this question. 1-1, given the opposition, that being Vegas, that being Arizona, and that being the Rangers on Monday. How do you think the Jets did this week?
Yeah, they did average. They did average. Those are 2 playoff teams, 2 very good teams. You could say the Vegas is right there to defend their cup. So I would put them as a top 3 team in the league right now, regardless of record. Just seeing how they play as a team and how they're like defined by how they play as a team, as a 5-man unit, how they protect. It's hard to get offensive time against them. It's hard to sustain pressure, to cycle, because their defensemen are really big and really tough and can skate and can move. So the Rangers, another very good team, very hard to play against, play well defensively, have very big defensemen, can move the puck, have a really good goalie, but they're going to lose.
Hang on, I think we're having some connection issues.
Internet, I just saw the wheel spinning, but that's okay. No, we came back. But I'm just saying the Rangers and the Vegas Golden Knights
Yep.
are good teams, and the Jets ended up going 0-1-1 against them. Okay, on the road, one game. It's hard to win in Vegas. I get it. So, but they went 1-1, 1-1-1. Okay, that's what I thought. It's probably pretty normal, pretty middle of the road for the schedule, whatever. But I just want to touch on a couple things because you've got it here on our things to talk about. The Jets, how many games have they played now? I think is it 11? No, they're 5-4-2. Yeah, they've played 11 games. The Jets have played 11 games. Do you know that in those 11 games, they have let the other team score a power play goal in every game? I think except one. There could be one game where they
10 of 11.
10 of 11 they've allowed, and out of those 10, it's not just one. Some games they've allowed 2 power play goals, and there was one that even allowed 3 power play goals. Their power play stinks. It just doesn't stink. It stinks on ice. It's terrible. It's just terrible. They have no, and they say, well, it was such a good unit last year and blah, 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 blah. And it's just puck luck. It's not puck luck. If you watch other teams, and again, I don't know if it's because they don't have the coaching or they don't have the ability. Maybe it's just the players they can't do it. But if you watch other teams that are successful in killing penalties, most other teams, what they do is they pressure the puck like mad bees going after somebody trying to get into their hive. They just swarm. They get on the puck, and then what they do is just really smart. They put pressure on the puck, and then so if I'm one of the offensive guys in the power play zone and I have the puck and I get this guy putting pressure on me, I've only got a few outs. I've either got to the point or along the boards or across. And what they do is then the other 3 guys, what they do is they right away, when they see the one guy going to pressure the puck, the other 3 guys look, oh, where's he going? And they immediately go to the 3 lanes where the only escape routes are for that guy to get rid of the puck, because this guy's putting pressure on him and actually pushing him into the boards or checking a stick or whatever. So inevitably, what happens? They cough up the puck. Maybe once in a million, they're able to squib the puck out and it goes to somebody and they get a goal against. But more often than not, pressure leads to turnovers and leads to the puck going out. The Jets, they play their 4-man box and they move around and they put their sticks in lanes and it's all great. But the teams move the puck around and they score. And then their power play, the Jets, it stinks. That is a horrible power play. They can't get any shots. They can't get any one-timers. They don't move the puck around. What other teams do to them, they do the opposite. And what other teams do for defending, the Jets do the opposite. It's like, and I'm not a coach. I'm not in the NHL. Okay, they're going to say, Rick, come on. You never played in the NHL. You never coached. I get it. But you know what? I watch a lot of hockey, and I see what other teams do. They put pressure when they're defending, and on offense, they're moving around. The Oilers were the number 1 power play last year. They were constantly moving. They never hung on to the puck and looked for 5 seconds like Scheifele's got the puck. Who am I going to pass to? Oh, blah, blah. You see McDavid, Draisaitl, it's tuck, 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 tuck. It's just moving around, and if you move it around fast enough, eventually guys can't react to it fast enough. You find a lane, tuck, there's a shot on net. And the Jets, it's just the same rigmarole. Let's try and set up a one-timer for Kyle Connor. And I just, it's awful. It's painful.
Here's a question. Are they overfainting it on the power play?
Well, I think they're holding onto the puck too long. Each individual player. I think on the power play, it should be quick moving. Just a guy should take it, suck. He's got nothing back. Suck constantly, because how you get openings is with forcing the defensive quadrant.
Yeah, and you move that pyramid in front of the goal.
You got to move that diamond or whatever it is, so that you get some open lanes in there for shots to happen. But they're slow in how they move, and each guy holds onto the puck. Not so much Morrissey, but Connor and Scheifele. It's like they want to look and dance. Oh, who can I pass to? Oh, I want to make a beautiful, like 1001, 1002. Okay, the whole pyramid collapses. Somebody puts pressure on him. He's got nobody to pass to. Cough up the puck. Suck. It goes away. It's so predictable. I can see it. And you know what the problem is? If you don't score on the power play and you allow the other team to score 1 goal on the power play, every game, you might as well start the game -1. You might as well start the game 1-0 for the other team, because that's what it is. And how many games have the Jets lost by like a goal or a goal plus an empty netter? A lot of games that could have been changed way differently by having one power play goal or allowing one less power play goal. So it's awful. I mean, people say, "Oh, it'll come around. It'll come around." I heard, you know, Kevin Sawyer. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's an NHL. He's not going to slam the thing. But and then that Dan, what's his name? Like
Dan Robertson.
Dan Robertson, nice guy. Oh, it'll come around. Yeah, okay. What? And game 81, it might be too late for that. Like, it's not good. And I don't. For me personally,
to be honest, I think that special teams is what's affecting Connor Hellebuck and what people think about him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Hellebuck has played well. Listen, he made some saves in that game against Arizona. There was a power play where he slid across on a one-timer. I thought it was in the back of the net. The guy was wide open. They fed it across. He slid across with his right pad and stopped a point-blank shot. I don't know if that was Keller, whoever that was. I thought for sure it's going to be a goal. That kept the game at 3-2, and then the Jets went up shortly thereafter 4-2. That could have been 3-3. It could have been a completely different game. So I'm just saying it's not good, and they got to address it. Like, and I'm not even so concerned. I mean, the power play, okay, it's you got to stop other teams from scoring. Your penalty kill can't be 10%. Like, that's terrible. Or your penalty kill can't be 10% or whatever, or 70%. I guess the opposite. It can't be 65 or 70. It's terrible. And their power play is like 9%. They haven't scored a power play goal in the last like 20, 25 opportunities. It's terrible. They got to change something. Change it up. Just, you know what I would do? I'd go old school. I just get your biggest boomers. I'd get Brendan Dillon on the point. Forget about Morrissey. You want to put him on one of the wings, that's fine. I'd get Brendan Dillon on top or Pionk, and I'd set them up, and I just keep going, and I would get them to pound shots from the top. Blast away, rebounds, suck, bang it in. Old school. That's what worked for the last 50 years. And if you can't do anything with the triangle or the quadrant and whatever, you can't do it, set it up, tee it up, and have some bombers just take some hard cranks at the net and look for rebounds. Because this thing is not working. And they've done it over and over and over again, and it's not changing. And it's painful to watch. But I mean,
why do we see the same thing seemingly alienate this hockey team every season?
What do you mean?
It's not like this lackluster power play or penalty kill to start the year is anything new in my mind.
Well, no, but last year their power play was very good.
It was very good, but
I think it was top 10 in the league. So
it took a while to get going. The penalty kill took a while to get going too. I don't know. To me, I'm struggling to think of reasons why. I mean, it's
you know what a big thing is?
Penalty kill when you look at the personnel that's involved.
I think a big thing for the power play is they don't move the puck around fast enough, number one, to cause the defense to have to move and shift to get lanes and openings. And I think the second thing is, and this is, the power play really hasn't been great since they lost Buff, because you could say what you want about Buff, but he could pound the puck. And Morrissey's a great puck mover. He's got a good shot, but he doesn't have a hard shot. And I think you need somebody, just like the Oilers have that to Bouchard, and like every other team has some guy at the top who can just tee it up and crank it. I think the Jets don't have some, or they're not playing the guys who could do that. And whatever. It is what it is. We're going to have to live with it. But if you're going to work on one or two things, in my mind, the penalty killing is the most important thing, even more important than the power play.
Realistically, Rhett, though, we have a reason to be critical of this team. Fair. But I would say record-wise, where they are through 11 games isn't entirely a surprise.
No, but think about how, like, considering they've actually played really well. Like, between
they probably deserve to win 2 or 3 more games than they've won based on.
Like, considering their talent level, when they play their system, they're a hard team to play against.
5-on-5, they are one of the best teams in the NHL.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're very good defensively. They play their system well. And if they could just get the power play notched up a little bit and the penalty kill notched up, that's the difference between maybe 5-4-2, and now you're looking at 7-2-1 or 7-3-1, right? It looks completely different, right? It's then 5-4-2, 7-3-1, just a couple of wins. So one less overtime loss, and is that right? So yeah, because it's 11 games, right? So like a couple less losses, one overtime loss, and 2 extra wins. So I'm saying, but then again, it's still early. They have actually, I just looked today, they have the same record as the Toronto Maple Leafs. And in Toronto, they want to fire the whole team and want to trade everybody and fire Keith and and here in
It's
Winnipeg, we're
funny though,
thrilled.
because
That's 5-4-2.
everybody seemed to think that they addressed the areas that needed to be addressed, which is what I found funny. And now it doesn't seem to be working yet.
Yeah, well, I saw that what's his name slew-footed Lilgren and nobody did anything.
Yeah, Marchand.
Marchand slew-footed and nobody did anything. Max Domi hasn't gotten a point yet. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
just
saying,
think
like,
the more things change, Rhett, the more things stay the same. The more you expect things to change. Look at the Oilers. I hate to pick on them, but we've had this discussion how long to start the season for the last 5 years.
yeah.
And we've seen if this is the year, this is the year, this is the year. Well, sorry, but put up or shut up time is starting soon.
I know. There's a few strange ones this year. Edmonton is a strange one. The Flames are a strange one. Vancouver is a strange one in the other direction.
Yeah.
And then what's going on in San Jose? I mean, I don't like to throw around the phrase tire fire, but that is literally somebody took a bunch of old tires, poured gas on them, and lit a flame, because that's what San Jose looks like right now. I don't. How can you lose 2 games in 1 week and give up 10 goals a game? I've never heard of
in
that.
a row.
In a row, but I'm saying I've never heard of that going back to like the 70s and run and gun 80s, where there were 8 goals a game. So the Oilers in their heyday would score a ton of goals. I've never heard of one team giving up 10 goals in 2 consecutive games and losing those 2 games. I've never heard of that. I can't recall that ever happening. What? And those teams, it's not like Vancouver and who was the other team? Vancouver and who beat them? Who was the other team that beat them with 10 goals? Pittsburgh. It's not like, okay, Vancouver, Pittsburgh are good teams, but I wouldn't put them in the top tier like Boston and Vegas and so on. Like they're good teams, but for Pittsburgh and Vancouver, I'm frightened of what would happen if San Jose would play Vegas this week. You know, they could put up 3 touchdowns. It could be 21. It could be 7 goals a period. What gets that?
If certain things break a certain way, according to Jeff Merritt, we might get the Oilers in the shirts on Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Central in the NHL's game of the week.
On Thursday?
Yeah, I hope you get my sarcasm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Bottom of the standing teams.
Oh, okay.
Really quickly though, Rich, I wanted to talk about Nino Niederreiter.
Yeah.
He was the guy that we acquired last year at the deadline. Had last year and this year left on his contract. More particularly, he got a hat trick in the game against Arizona, probably off a shin pad away from 4 goals on the empty net.
Almost won somebody $100,000. Yeah, very close.
And somebody would have won $100,000, as you said. What have you seen from Nino Niederreiter? Because this comes off of the thought that his agent is in town and apparently wants, Nino Niederreiter, if these reports are to be believed, but Nino Niederreiter wants a long-term extension to remain with the Winnipeg Jets. So, reflecting on the whole Nino Niederreiter situation, what have you thought of from the Swiss forward that the Jets have acquired at the deadline last year?
So is that like, okay, so that whole point you had, the Nino Niederreiter thoughts with agent in town this week, player reportedly, that's all he's looking for, a long-term contract extension.
Or a contract extension.
Yeah. Listen, to me, Nino Niederreiter has been one of the very best Jets in the team. And to your point, I know we're going to get to that. You know, the top 2 lines are great. They'll come around. Velarde will come back. He'll fill in there with Connor and Scheifele, and it'll be great. They'll figure out where to put Iafallo. Maybe he drops down to the second line with Morrissey or with
Steelers
Ehlers
and
and Perfetti. But I'm
Perfetti,
just
yeah.
saying that I follow maybe goes down to the fourth line. I don't know. But all I'm telling you is this: that line of Appleton, Lowry, and Niederreiter, you could argue, has been the best line for the Jets all year.
Do not touch. Do not
Well,
touch
don't touch that line.
capital letters.
That third line, they match up other teams every time they're on the ice. I don't know if you notice it. I mean, the announcers will say da 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 da. If you watch, most of their shift is spent in our offensive zone. Like they're in the other team's defensive zone. They're cycling the puck. They may not get even a shot on net, but they're pounding those defensemen. They're banging. They're crushing. They're cycling. They're causing nothing but trouble. They try to get the puck out. They put it right back in.
And now they're scoring goals.
Yeah, and the other team's not scoring goals against them. Like that.
Yeah, that line has
interesting
outscored their
combo.
opponent something like 15-4 this year, I saw.
Yeah. It's been a great line. I hope they sign him. I don't know. How old is Niederreiter? I think he's 31, 32.
Yeah, something in that neighborhood, yeah.
I think so. I don't think he's 35 like Wheeler. I don't think he's
No.
I think he's a few years younger.
Yeah,
But I'm
he's
saying-
31 or 32, I think.
Okay. Maybe somebody listening can let us know
Yep.
in the chat room what his age is. But I'm just saying those guys like 32. So that's the thing. Like now he's a UFA. What does he want? 5 years? I wouldn't sign him to 5 years, but I don't think he can get 5 years anywhere he goes. Could he get 3 years? Maybe. I think the Jets would like to sign him for 2. I think he'll want 3+. I would sign him for 3. I wouldn't sign him for more than 3. That's my opinion. Because like we've seen with Wheeler and with lots of other guys hit their mid-30s and it starts to really fall off. And if he's 31, 32, sign him for
31, yeah, I just looked it up. It's 31.
31. Okay, but he'll be 32 next year, right? He's 31 this year. So 32 next year.
32 on September 8th of next season.
Okay. So sign him for 3 years. Sign him till he's 34, turning 35. Okay. That's
ideal.
what I would do. But
Probably
can you get him to sign that?
Probably a 4-year deal gets it done.
Yeah, but I don't know if the Jets want to do that. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I think him coming in here, along with Vladislav Nemestikov, was the sort of transition to the bonus type of hockey, the style of hockey that bonus likes to play.
Yep.
And we're starting to see that kind of manifest. And it's Iafallo, Velarde, Kapari, all defensively responsible forwards. Now we haven't seen Velarde, but 2 games. I did 2.25 games. Yep. I think he got hurt in the third game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where I think the Jets forwards are a little bit ahead of their defense prospects. And then they have Brad Lambert and Nikita Shibirkov near the top of the AHL in rookie scoring. So there's some depth coming there.
Yep. That's good.
I wanted to ask, what do you make of Declan Chisholm not getting into a game yet? It's been 11 games. The guy's been in the press box.
Yeah, what about Logan Stanley? Logan Stanley's only had 1 game.
I know, to me, both of those guys are 2 guys that need to play hockey a little bit more consistently, whether that's with the Jets, whether that's with the Moose, whether that's with another team. To me, if the defensive part of this team keeps struggling, what is the harm in putting a Declan Chisholm, who apparently Jets management is high on, but we wouldn't know that because we haven't really seen him. And to me, it's just Logan Stanley in particular. He can only get into 1 game despite what this unit of 6 has done so far. To me, it's a little bit befuddling, but you don't put those guys in the lineup more, considering the Achilles heel of his team is that 6 defensemen right now.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Are you going to just sit guys out just because you got to get other guys in? They're there.
if,
They are there.
if you don't perform and you keep making the same mistake, of course
Yeah,
you
but
should.
they are performing. The Jets are winning. You're
Sorry?
going to blame? Who are you going to blame? Who are you going to blame that the Jets lost to Vegas? Who gets blamed for that?
No, I'm not saying you need to blame losses, but I'm saying if you're not playing well defensively, what's the harm in trying to shake things up? Look at what that did to Nate Schmidt. Third or
Yeah,
fourth game of the year, he sits down. He's come back. He's been a little bit of a better defensive player.
okay, but I would argue, and you just said it earlier, the Jets are really good 5-on-5. I don't think the Jets have a problem defensively, even though I don't like their depth. They don't have somebody down. Like if they had Seth Jones playing with the Moose, I'd call him up and I'd replace Nate Schmidt with Seth Jones, and I'd send Nate Schmidt down to the minors to clear waivers. If anybody wants him, they can have him. But we don't have Seth Jones. We have a bunch of guys that are young, unproven, and are they ready? Maybe. They're close. Some could be closer than others, but we got all these veteran guys. And the Jets are playing good. 5-on-5 is actually pretty good. The Jets so far this year have been really good 5-on-5. The problem is the power play and the penalty kill.
The other interesting thing, Dylan Sambert has only been on the ice for one goal this year. And that was 1 or 2 games ago against the Rangers.
Goals against or goals?
Yeah, he's been on the ice for only 1 goal against.
Yeah, I know. He's a good defenseman.
And that was that game against the Rangers. So
I like Dylan Sandberg's game. He's tough. He's not a monster. He's not going to scrap. He might. Right. I don't know if I've said, but I like his game. He can shoot. He should shoot more. He's very smart with a puck. He's a good.
I like him, Red. You know why? Because we're not talking about him every game.
And that's what you want with a third pairing guy.
I mean, if you're not talking about a guy, he's doing okay.
Yep, especially on the third pairing, because he's not expected to score. He's just expected to be. He's in your the group of 4 defensemen who kill penalties, and he's there to make sure that nobody scores against him when he's on the ice. And as long as he does that and he does it well, everything else is gravy.
That's the important question.
Yep.
Laurent Brossoit tomorrow night?
That is a good question. You know what? When was the last time he played? Did he play against Vegas?
Yeah, I played against Vegas in Winnipeg.
Right. No, but he played in Montreal. That's the last
Montreal.
time.
Yeah, that was the Montreal game.
When he lost in overtime, right? And then Hellebuck played against the Rangers at home, and then he played the 2 road games now so far, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's been 3 games. Yeah, I could see Brossoit either playing against St. Louis or against the Nashville on Thursday. Yeah.
No, to me, I think it's tomorrow, Rick.
It could very well be. I would say, so remember we talked about this, 3 out of every 4. He's got to play 20% or 25%. 1 out of every 4 games, he's got to play.
Yeah. So, yeah. And to me, Brossoit hasn't been the sole reason why he hasn't won a game. There's been other underlying issues.
Oh, yeah. He's played okay. Like, he hasn't played terrible. No.
Maybe the Montreal game, you could make the argument he was fighting the puck a little bit, but it happened. I think that's why on a hockey team, the most thankless, difficult position to play is that of the backup goalie.
I would agree with you.
Because you play once every 4 games, you get those crappy games, back end of a back-to-back. The team's tired. You get in at 3 a.m. Now you got to play with a sleepy team in front of you, and they don't get pretty games, the backup goalies, most times.
No.
Unless you're the sorry?
I gotta take care of one thing. The dog is whining. Hang on.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. Meantime, I'll get to the MWJHL plays of the week. Rhett, unless you're coming back here.
Okay, right back.
Oh, you did. Okay, I was gonna get the plays of the weekend while you were gone, but that's okay. Yeah. So we kind of talked about the Winnipeg Jets this week. Is there anything else that we need to address before we move on to the rest of the NHL?
Yeah. No. I think we've said everything we got to say. Their team plays well. They have to improve on the penalty kill and the power play, because if they just improve maybe 5 percentage points, just a little bit on each one, that could be an extra win every 4 games. So as opposed to going 2-1-1, they maybe go 3-1. And at the end of the year, over the course of the 81 or 82 games, it makes a difference. So they've got to improve their special teams. And otherwise, I think they're playing well. I don't expect them to win every game. When they play against Vegas and against New York Rangers, those are hard teams to play against. But now coming up, they're playing St. Louis on the road, their last game of this 3-game road trip. That's a very winnable game. They come home to play Nashville, winnable game. Then a couple of tough games against the Stars and the Devils. And then they close off their homestand against the Sabres and the Coyotes. So those are, there's some very good hockey teams there, but the Jets are they're a team that's very good as well. So, I think there's a chance they got to make there's got to be some stretch here now. What is this now? November what's today? The 6th? Yeah. So there's got to be some time in the next month. I would say the next 5-6 weeks, they got to have a stretch where they separate themselves. So they got to go over the course of 10 games. They got to win 8 games. They can't go 5-5 and then 4-5-1 and then 5-4-1 and then just blah 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 blah, all the same over and over again. Because they're never
Maybe the Vancouver-esque run in the next 10 games.
Yeah.
7-2-1, something like that.
Yeah, or 8-2. Yeah, I agree.
But otherwise,
anyway,
really quickly, let's talk about another Canadian team, the Ottawa Senators. Just a memo, kids. Make sure you follow trade directions and trade protection properly, or it could cost you your job and, more importantly, a first-round pick. As Pierre Dorion learned the hard way this week in Ottawa, he gets removed or he resigned after 8 years. And this goes back to the Evgeny Dadonov trade, where apparently the trade protection wasn't sent in properly, wasn't honored, however you want to word it. Ultimately, the NHL makes the Senators forfeit a first-round pick this year, next year, or the year after, their choice. They must make it 48 hours after the draft lottery has concluded in either of the 3 seasons. And unfortunately, now Ottawa is GM hunting. Your thoughts, Rich?
Yeah, and it's not so much that they didn't to detail it to Vegas. And then Vegas is upset. They didn't detail it to Vegas. So when Vegas tried to trade him to San Jose, right? Then San Jose was not on his trade list of wanting to go there. And so that was the problem. So because they didn't do their due diligence in their initial trade, now that became sour goods that now Vegas couldn't trade what they wanted to and do what they wanted to do with another team, which makes the league look bad, because if it's just between 2 teams, it's one thing. It's between 3 teams. Now that gets really complicated.
The NHL was, quote, embarrassed by the scenario, according to a statement last week.
Was quoting who?
The NHL was, quote, embarrassed by the situation last week, according to a statement.
It's embarrassing. But you know what my question is Pierre Dorion's not an idiot. Like, he's a hockey guy. He's a smart guy. Like, that's why you got assistant general managers and you got guys in your, like, he's not on the phone, send me the list of all your, like, blah, 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 and then taking that list and going to the printer and printing it off and then putting that in an email and whatever. He's got people to do that. He's the GM. He's not taking care of all that administrative crap, but he's got to fall on the sword for that. Like, come on. Like, to me, and it's ultimately him. Yes, it is. But I'm just saying, who dropped the ball? Who when that agent sent in that information on behalf of that player, who in that Ottawa Senators office did not take that information and properly put that into the contract and into the information that they sent to Vegas when they offered the trade for Dadonov to Vegas? Who didn't do that? Okay, it's ultimately Dorion, but there's somebody else. I'm sorry, it's not all Pierre Dorion, in my humble opinion. I mean, you know the way it works in companies. doesn't get involved in all the little minutia. That's why you have administrative assistants and people that help you with all that stuff. So
Here's the question.
yeah.
Is this Michael Andlauer, the new owner of the Ottawa Senators, making the statement about the way his organization is going to conduct himself?
Yeah. It's embarrassing. It's not good. But what are you going to do? So he didn't fire Doran. He probably talked with him, and Doran said, "Listen, I'll resign because somebody's got to take the fall. I get it." So he resigned. He's a classy guy. But and it may be all his fault. I doubt it. I don't think so. But I guess what I'm saying is, it's a high price to pay to lose a first-round draft pick. That's why Andlauer is upset. Is because that's huge, right? That's a huge commodity.
Yeah.
That could be a franchise-changing
Franchise players are built like that, especially with their record the way it is this year so far.
Yeah. You're going to pick somebody that's going to be good. Maybe not right away, but in 2 or 3 years is going to be part of your team or can be an asset to trade away for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's surprise, but I get it. You got to do it. Even more interesting. I mean, that one's interesting. We didn't talk about last week's show. I don't know if it was on or if we knew the news last week, but I wanted to talk to you about Shane Pinto and getting suspended 41 games.
Yeah, that came down late.
Gambling.
Yeah. So.
Why are you sending balloons? What is that for?
I didn't do anything.
I got balloons on the screen.
Somebody else might be sending balloons.
Okay. No, but what have we found out? Like I heard players were so confused because are you allowed to gamble? Are you not allowed to gamble? And then the players, like the NHL didn't come out and say, this is what Shane Pinto did. He didn't gamble on games that involved his team and he was playing in. So that's okay. That's good. Right. But what did he do for a 41 game suspension? I mean, guys have taken guys' heads off, concussed players, taken almost sliced their head off with a hockey stick, and they get 3 games. Marchand is literally sent guys into the hospital or the morgue, and he's gotten 5 games, 10 games, 5 games, and a guy gets 41 games for gambling indiscretions. What's the issue? And then the NHL comes out and says, "Oh, here's what you should stay away from. You shouldn't have other people betting on your behalf. You shouldn't bet on your own games." What did he do? Nobody wants to say what he did. Yeah. What did he do that caused him to lose 41 games, including pay?
Especially when like you said, we've had multiple more severe incidents, and it seems to be a slap on the wrist.
Right. Now, I'm saying this could be really serious. Like it could be something, but he didn't bet on his own games, and he didn't get somebody else to put money down on behalf of him on his own games. That's been established. NHL says, no, he hasn't done that. Okay. So what is
all we're asking for it, to be honest, is transparency. Like what
exactly. Why can't the fans know? It's for me personally, something's not right. And if I was a player, I mean, I'm not a gambler. If I was a player, I wouldn't be in gambling either. But if a kid is a gambler and he wants to gamble, he makes good money and he wants to gamble, maybe he's going to bet on some NFL games, maybe on some Major League Baseball or NBA, fine. Yep. But what are the rules? I'm a gambler. Oh, I'm not allowed to get, like, what happens if I play for the Penguins and I want to put down some money on the Leafs and the Habs this weekend because it's an original 6 game.
Yeah.
And I have sort of like a love for Montreal because that's where I was born and raised. So I'm saying, is that kosher, not kosher? We don't know because nobody's told us. And that's, if I was a player, I would be very frustrated not knowing. I would, in essence, what I would do as a player, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to gamble on anything because I'm scared. I don't want to lose half a season of money and half a season of playing. It's a big deal. You'd think somebody would come out and explain it, but to me, it makes no sense. Spend a guy half a season, you say nothing.
And now you get people questioning the guy's character because he's suspended for half a season.
That's what I'm saying.
And the guy doesn't have a contract, or his next contract is probably.
That's the other thing. It's a serious deal. That's, Michael, that's a very good point. They don't say what it is, but the number of games is supposed to reflect, right? Like the same thing with the incidences of violence.
The crime.
Right. And there's escalation, right? So the first suspension for a high stick infraction, 3 years or 3 games. Next one could be 6 games. Then it's 10 games. But I'm saying, out of the gate and you give this guy half a season. Yeah. What did he do? My gosh, that is a huge price to pay. It must be something bad. Well, why can't they tell the fans? I don't know.
Well, the other end of the thing is Shane Pinto, by all accounts, has taken responsibility.
He's been
For
very
that,
yes, he has been
which
very apologetic, and he's been very good. And he said, "No, I'm going to serve out. I'm not going to."
so I find it the
challenge it.
whole thing just really interesting. The fact that he is guilty of something, but we don't know what.
Right.
It's like we're getting a half story.
Exactly. And I don't understand why. Like, is it maybe because they want to protect Shane Pinto? Okay, then tell us that. Then just come out and say, you know what, we're gonna the player has been suspended. He's agreed to the suspension. We're not going to go into any of the details. And then we put out this thing that says we want NHL players to know the following. This is what you should know. Do not bet on games that you play in. Do not bet on games through third parties. Do not do prop bets. That was another big one they put out.
Right.
Like, okay, you put all that out there, but I don't know. I would like to know what is so serious that a guy gets half a season. Wow. Like, to me,
Or better yet, just say he's suspended 42 games for 41 games for whatever you want to say, and don't even mention the gambling part of it. Because now right away people assume him as this hardcore gambler. And I've seen that statement out there too. Like, his reputation, he's going to have to do some image repair work. But yet things aren't exactly clear, and I'll never understand. Never. By the way, I'm not a gambler either, but something to me doesn't quite add up here with what is going on. And the Ottawa Senators have had an interesting week. The general manager, the guy doesn't have a contract. Now all contract offers toward Pinto have been rescinded, according to Michael Andlauer.
yeah,
To use a quote from me, Andlauer press conference, this week has brought me back to earth um, from the good times that I was having, something to that nature from Michael Andlauer.
yeah.
Interesting point here with to touch on as well. Where do you see the Ottawa Senators going with their next general manager? Steve Stales, former Oiler, good friends with Michael Andlauer. They ran the Hamilton Bulldogs of the OHL together, won a championship, came close to the Memorial Cup. What do you see as the future of the Ottawa Senators? Because to me, this right away becomes an attractive job given the young pieces and the young core that they have in place.
Well, I agree. I think if you're asking me what I think is going to happen, I think right now he is president of hockey operations and he's acting GM, right?
Yep. Interim, yeah.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is he's going to do this job for a while, maybe even the rest of the season, and then or maybe even before the end of the season, and then we're just going to get an announcement. Steve Stales has agreed to take on the GM role along with the president of hockey operations together. And yeah, that, the Jets do it with Cheveldayoff. He's president and GM, right?
President of hockey operations and general manager.
That's right. That's Cheveldayoff.
Yeah.
And I think there's several. I think Yzerman's got that title in Detroit. I think there are several. It can be done.
Tampa.
Yep, it can be done.
Pittsburgh.
Yep, I think it can be done. And I think what's going to happen, but then you got to have some really good people around him. Stales is smart. Some of the guys that have played with him said he's always thinking, he's always analyzing. He never does anything random. It's always thought out, and it's always got an end game to it. And I could see him now doing this on a trial basis. And then he just tells Andlauer, you know what? I'd like to take this role fully, both. And then away they go. And Andlauer will bless it. So that's what I think will happen. I don't think they're going to go outside. I think they're going to stay with Stales. So, but how about you? What do you think? Do you think they're going to find somebody outside?
I've heard the Peter Chiarelli rumors already. If Peter Chiarelli goes to Ottawa. Sorry.
It's not, but you know what? Sometimes people have to remember it's not just who's the best GM that's available. I mean, it can be that, sure. But you know what? There's got to be a fit. And it sounds like Andlauer, he's a little bit of a quirky duck just from what we've seen the last week with just how they address things with Dorian and now with Pinto. I'm just saying maybe Cirelli doesn't want to work for him, or maybe
Right.
Stales and Cirelli sit down and they don't quite see eye to eye. Like if you're president of hockey operations, you got to bring in a guy that's like your clone, that you are like yin and yang, that's going to work closely with you and is going to just think exactly like you when it comes to player acquisitions and bringing guys up from the minors and who's going to play and who's going to be developed. And it's hard. Some guys can find a guy like that. Other guys, they take on the role together and then they bring on a whole bunch of assistant general managers and other guys to help them out with all the minutia. And some of the, like with the assistant general managers that work for like Chevy and for Yzerman and for some of the other guys that do it, they're almost like quasi general managers. They do a lot of the general manager role, but they have the assistant general manager title because the final decision is still made by Yzerman or Cheveldayoff or whoever it is. And I just think with Stales seems like this type of guy too. He's got to find somebody that thinks like him. And if he doesn't, he's going to go with his own. He's going to hire from within, which is basically going to be, he's going to ask himself if he wants the job. And I think that's what's going to happen. So,
yeah.
So which team do you think that is tanking right now has the best chance of turning it around between now and let's say Christmas or the end of the year?
Pittsburgh.
And I'll throw some teams out here. I'll throw some teams out just for people to think about while we were thinking about it. Edmonton Oilers, we already mentioned them. Who else? The Flames. The Flames and Oilers, there's both trouble in those cities. Chicago, okay, I think they are who they are, but some people think they should be better. The Penguins, yeah, they beat Vancouver 10-1, but they haven't played that well. They've been very up and down. Columbus Blue Jackets. Where's Johnny Gaudreau? Where's Johnny? Somebody look for Johnny. We can't find him.
Where's Sonny? Where's Patrick?
Yep. And even the
Where's that wanted defense?
Yep. So, but anyway, which team do you think has the chance that like that's really underperforming?
Based on track record, Pittsburgh.
Okay. So you think?
But then again, I'm not really surprised. They are where they are because their top end guys, the big four there, Malkin, Crosby, Letang, Carlson, take up a lot of money. It's almost $40 million or something between the four of them.
Yeah, which is like half the salary cap.
You can't build a team around it. Look at Edmonton, McDavid and Draisaitl. They take up too much money. You can't build a team around them. That's true. Matthews in Toronto with Marner and Nylander and Tavares. That hasn't worked. Has not worked. Will not work. Vegas didn't have a $10 million player. St. Louis didn't have a $10 million player when they won. There was something about the money being spread out on a hockey team cap-wise that allows you to build a better team. And I think
I agree.
Putting all your eggs in a $40 million basket among four players is a big mistake. And I don't think their goaltending has been up to par. They recommitted to Tristan Jarry. I don't think that's ended very well. I think the goaltender that they traded, Casey DeSmith, is having a pretty good run of it in Vancouver along with Thatcher Demko. But there's just something about it when the chips are on the table, Rick. Crosby and company come through.
Yeah, and I would agree.
Calgary won't just slip by the wayside and watch the last run of this core, if you want to call it that, go down the drain.
No, I think they'll play better, but I agree with you. I think because I picked them to make the playoffs. I don't know if you did, but I picked them to make the playoffs, and I still think they're going to turn it around and they're going to play better and they're going to win more games than they lose and they're going to end up in the playoffs. So I still think they're a team that can turn it around. I'm just not sure honestly, I'm not sure about the Oilers. I think the Flames, I still think the Flames can turn it around. I just cannot figure that team out. That team And especially when you look at, and here's why I say, like, if you're going to ask me, Rick, well, what's the difference, Oilers and Flames? For me, I'm going to pick the Flames as the way better chance of turning around than the Oilers. And you know why? Because of their defense. Their goaltending is solid with Markstrom, and that defensive core is really, really good. And I just cannot figure out why that team, why they cannot be in sync. I don't know if they need more practice time, if it's just there's selfish guys on that team. I can't figure it out, but it makes no sense to me that that team with all that talent is playing as poorly as they are. I just don't understand it.
So there's a lot to be left to be desired, Rick.
Yeah, I would agree.
Anyway, let's look ahead at the week bet is for the Winnipeg Jets. At St. Louis, home to Nashville, home to Dallas.
Yep.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday afternoon.
Yep. I'm going to the game on Saturday afternoon, by the way. I will look for you in the crowd, or I will look for you in the TV.
Sorry?
I said I will look for you from the crowd into the TV. So when the camera comes on me, I'll say, hi, Michael. I'll hold up a sign that says, hi, Michael.
2:00 puck drop, by the way, not 3.
Why? What happened?
Bomber game.
Yeah, why did they move the Bomber games to Saturday this year?
CFL playoffs are on Saturday to move away from the NFL.
Yeah, but that's a new thing, right?
Yeah, it'll be a permanent thing, but it's the first year with the...
Is this the first year they did it?
Yeah, well, they did it in 2009. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
But the CFL has committed to this change long term, it sounds like.
Right, because last year it was on Sunday still, right? I remember it being, yeah.
Yeah, and the Grey Cup will be on Sunday still.
Oh, okay. So they're doing, I see. So they're moving the game early on Saturday because then people that go to the Jet game that ends at 4:30, 4:45 can still make the Bomber game.
Correct. At 5:30.
5:30 is the Bomber game? Okay. They'll probably have shuttles from the Jet game over to the Bomber game.
Probably. It hasn't been announced yet. There might be an announcement in the next couple of days. But the Jets game drops the puck at 2 p.m. on Saturday.
2 p.m. Okay. Well, that's kind of important since I'm going. Thanks.
Oh, you didn't know that. I wrote some news to you.
Yeah, well, I haven't looked at my ticket electronically, but it probably says that on the ticket now. But okay.
Hey, Red.
Yes.
The Masters have spoken.
What's that?
I'll display the note here.
Yeah.
The Masters have spoken. Make the sign happen. No, just kidding. For the record, I don't like the spotlight. Keep it as far away from me as possible.
I know.
I prefer to work behind the scenes. I'd rather not hear, know, whatever you want to say about it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the pot.
So how do you think the Jets are going to do this next week between now and our next show? At St. Louis, then at home to the Predators, and then to the Stars.
I think they're going to win all 3 games.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's going to be this.
That's why I love you. I love you for many reasons, but that's why.
Beating St. Louis once. They should beat Nashville. And they will beat Dallas.
That'll be a tough game, the Stars.
That's the only one I have questions about, but Hellebuyck plays well in afternoon games.
He does. Yep. I think they're going to go either 2-1 or 2-0-1. I think they're going to lose one, but whether they lose in overtime or in regulation, it's like they'll either go 2-1 or 2-0-1. So I think
bottom line, no, we can agree that this Winnipeg Jets team 5-on-5 is a much better team this year than last year. If they can get the special teams figured out, it should head to a pretty good second half of the season.
Well, and that was one of the things, actually, it's one of the things I want to touch on. I know we got still a few minutes here, was that game against Vegas. Vegas outplayed them in the first period and were up 1-0. Then the Jets score to make it 1-1. And they played well. That was the beginning of the second period. They took it to Vegas. They were cycling the puck, especially that Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton line. They score the goal. They tie it up. And like within a minute later, Appleton high sticks a guy and gets two minor penalties, gets a double minor
Yep.
for high sticking. And it's stupid. See, and this is just what I want to say. This is like, if your team is not doing well at killing penalties, I know you can't control when you go on the power play. That you take as a gift by working hard and you get the power plays. But why would you take stupid penalties? You want to slash a guy who's coming in on a breakaway and you chop a stick to keep him from taking a shot. I get it. But the high stick a guy for no reason, like, you're not going to get the puck on him. He's the stride ahead of you and you stick him in the nose and cut him and go sit down, and they score 2 goals on those 2 penalties, and it takes the game from 1-1 to 3-1. That changed the game right there.
Good night.
Appleton,
Good night at
Appleton,
Vegas.
in-game awareness, knowing your team, knowing how your team plays. If my team is struggling killing penalties, I should not be taking penalties. My gosh, I just don't. It's like, but anyway.
Yep. Anyway, Rich, I have a quick thing. I want to get to the MWJHL
Yes.
plays of the week quickly.
Yes.
And then we'll wrap it up when we come back. This first goal, 0-0 Polar Ice. And the Silver Tips, 0-0. Put your stick on the ice. Go to the front of the net. And as Emma Fernie found out, good things happen.
But we're waiting. Back in front. Opportunity. Reimer. Oh, that's deflected. Right out of front, they score.
I believe that was a double deflection. If my eyes are...
Deflection, tie.
But we wait.
Goal makes it 1-0 en route to a 6-1 victory for the Silver Tips. Next play of the week, Grey Owl did a goal from Danica Prochit in the second period last night. That 1-0 lead until some leaky defense occurred.
Quickly in front of the breakaway. Right score.
Hey.
We're tied at 1.
Breakaway tied the game at 1. Only a few minutes later, the game decided much the same way.
7:53 left. Back in here, the breakaway. Drews on the breakaway. Jordan the backhand.
Back-to-back breakaway goals. That's your eventual game-winning goal. Now setting the scenario for 5 teams to be within 1 point of first place. The Prairie Blades ahead in the standings by 1 at 11 points through 8 teams, 7 or 8 teams. And everybody else, the next 5 teams all have 10. And then the bottom 2 teams a little bit further back. So tight races. In the MFHL and the MWJHL, you can catch all the action on Game Time TV by visiting GameTimeTV.ca. Watch for some more highlights over the course of the season. Rich, let's wrap up this show here today. Pretty good to add some highlights to the end. I think we might be able to add some highlights in here eventually. That is my goal for testing this out.
Okay.
Because apparently we do have rights to play Jets highlights. I didn't know this. And post-game clips, we'll look into that shortly. What did you learn about the National Hockey League this week?
Well, I learned that they're very secretive when it comes to certain matters of internal discipline. And that is related to the Shane Pinto suspension for 41 games and not telling fans and the media and whoever else wants
the true reason.
What he did. We know it's gambling. Like you had suggested, they shouldn't have said anything, just that he's suspended. Well, that's even worse because you just say, we suspend this guy for what? Like, did he kill somebody? Was he selling drugs out of his minivan? Like what like, but now to say, he's gambling. Well, or
that's a pretty broad stroke.
Gambling indiscretions, I think, I don't know exactly how they worded it, but they said basically indiscretions related to gambling. Well, what is that? Like, just come out and tell it so fans know what's kosher and what's not kosher. Why is that so hard? But anyway, it's like upper body and lower body injuries. That just bothers me too. But I understand why they do it. It's protecting players' safety. I get it. But this, what are you protecting? I don't understand. But anyway, that's what I learned. I learned that the NHL is far too secretive in something. You know what? I'm going to end it with this way. The more transparent you can be in your life and in your workplace and with the organization you run, with the public, with your employees, the better it will be. Transparency is never a bad thing, especially when you're an honest worker and you're an honest company. Being transparent is the way you should be.
And if you're that way, you certainly have nothing to hide after a while.
Exactly. What did you learn?
Well, what I learned is that certain teams need to get going, or things are going to be off the tracks in a real hurry.
Yep.
And I feel bad for the San Jose Sharks fans. They might challenge that Winnipeg Jets early NHL days record of 8 wins in a season.
Who's the head coach for San Jose right now?
It is David Quinn. Does that sound
right?
right?
Yes. Formerly of the Bruins, right? Or
David Quinn, the former coach of the Rangers.
Or Rangers. Right. Rangers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I learned. We're back next Monday, 6 o'clock p.m. Enjoy the show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next Monday from Winnipeg. Go Jets, go. Hopefully a week from now, we're talking about the Blue Bombers heading to the Hammer for the Grey Cup. We'll be back. Talk about it next Monday. Ultimate Hockey Show. Good night from Winnipeg.